in 2014. So when I was just 26, I started being really unwell, and my team actually started noticing that before I did. And my boss at the time would tell you, there was a really specific event when we were in Spain, and I could not eat any of the lovely food because I just was so unwell. So they really pushed me to get seen and all of this. And as it turns out, I was diagnosed with bowel cancer, which was a massive shock for everybody around me as such a young person. So if you don't know about this kind of specific cancer, is quite uncommon for young people under the age of 50, let alone under the age of 30, to have bowel cancer, especially at the advanced stage that it was for me, because it was kind of kept undiagnosed for so long. So on the day of my birthday, when I turned 27, is when they said, yeah, you definitely have bowel cancer, you need to go for surgery the day after tomorrow. And so of course, it's a massive shock, but also the thing for me was, oh my God, that means I can't travel. And I had all this plan of going to the Middle East and going to Eastern Europe, and I was so excited for that. And somebody had to sit me down and say, Zakia, you will not go. Like, this is what is happening. You need to focus on this bit before you go to all these places again.
So we've been talking lots recently about new beginnings, and you started Invisible Cities all the way back in 2016, but prior to that had worked lots in the homelessness space as well, and also overcome some quite personal challenges as well. Tell us about kind of everything that happened through your 20s leading up to the start of Invisible Cities.
So when I was in my 20s working in Edinburgh, I worked for the Homeless World Cup Foundation, which was a really exciting job for a young girl, and I was an event planner / kind of homelessness kind of partnership director. So part of my job was to organise these amazing events in different countries all the time. And when I wasn't doing that, I was travelling anyway to those amazing countries to see what football sports was doing in the space of supporting people who had had a bit of a hard time. So I used to joke that my year was 6 to 8 months away from Scotland, where I live. And it was, incredibly humbling all the time to listen to people's stories and meet random John from Russia to Diego in Mexico. I'd met amazing characters, and I would come back with all those stories. But so it was like a life-changing moment and a new beginning, in the sense that it gives you a shock and makes you reevaluate what you want to do. And for me, it kind of gave importance to travel and storytelling, and how much I get from meeting all of these people, and how much I wanted that to be the focus of what I was doing. And like for a lot of people, you kind of think, I want to do my own thing now because life is short and you never know what can happen. So it was a catalyst of doing things differently and just being more confident in my life. I think it made me a little bit more fearless and think, oh yeah, why not? Because you never know what can happen. But that gave me a really positive outlook onto life.
So you obviously had to take a little bit of time off to get well and have treatment, and that stopped you travelling for a period of time and put your life on hold. When you were able to return to work and travel, what were the first things you did?
So, of course, and I was in that naive spot where I thought I could still travel while being unwell, and I was incredibly lucky that once I got an operation and then I did chemotherapy, my body handled it well, so I did not look particularly unwell, and I did not feel particularly unwell. It was more about recovery for me rather than having very, very heavy stuff happen. So I was still hoping that I could go to South America, and my oncologist at the time said, absolutely not. You can go to Europe at a push because treatments and protocols are kind of similar, but not to South America. Sorry. So I was really heartbroken about that. But I took a year out, more or less. So after a full year and I was fully recovered, the first thing I did was travel again. So I went to Greece, not long, actually I think a year to the day. So for my birthday, I spent it in Athens with actually the lovely team at the Street Paper, Zakia. And at the time, 2015-16, the refugee crisis was everywhere in the media. If you remember, it was that horrendous picture of the little boy who'd washed off on the beach and stuff. And somebody said, oh, you know, I know this person who knows this person who's running a camp on one of the islands and they really need help. And I think because I felt so out of sync for a year, I was like, I can be helpful again and I can do this. So I went in and volunteered a little bit on Lesbos Island in one of the camps, and really came back with the idea for Invisible Cities because the Street Paper in Greece was already speaking about doing tours, or had started this idea that some of their vendors could do walking tours as well as selling the magazine, and could tell their stories in a different way. And I thought, that's it. That's probably the concept that I want to take back to Scotland. And thinking the big issue in Scotland would help take it on. And then, you know, the universe had other plans, because the big issue, though very, very supportive, it said, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the resources to do that. So do it yourself and we will support with that. But we can't carry on. And so that was it, 10 years ago, the beginning of the rest of the story, I guess.
And Invisible Cities is about giving people who've experienced homelessness new opportunities, new beginnings, different ways to think about their confidence and opportunities that they might want to go into, including training as a walking tour guide. And that is what's at the heart of Invisible Cities. But bearing in mind everything you'd been through in that past year and all of those experiences in Greece, was starting Invisible Cities a new beginning for you as well?
I think starting Invisible Cities was definitely a new beginning, in the sense that you just feel that, you know, with a diagnosis like that, so the first thing you think about is, that's it, I'm going to die, you know. And I remember I am very practical when I want to be, so I remember thinking, yeah, that's it, I'm going to be dead, and all of my friends are going to be sad, and, you know, all of these things in a very practical way. I could see it happen, and then obviously you don't. So then you're like, okay, well, this is a new lease, and this is like all time that I thought for maybe 20 minutes, that, you know, or however long I had these ideas in my head that I would not have. So why not do with this what I really want to do, which was, you know, my own thing. And I wanted to just no longer, you know, try something new. For me, it was about being daring and carry on an idea that I thought could really do well. So it was more of that. It gave me that confidence to do something different, that I think if I hadn't had that experience, I would have stayed in a job that I loved, in a team that I loved, and not kind of break out that box. I would have, you know, carried on. And maybe, you never know, later on in life I would have done that. But having that experience of anything can happen, which we know is true for the guides, anything can happen. And I always say it, homelessness, when it does and can happen to anyone, because anything is possible at any one time, and some of that can be bad stuff, then, you know, why not do it now? You don't have the time, you should just do it as soon as you can. And that was it, really. But, you know, over the years, what's quite funny is I have met people along the way who said they did end up in homelessness because of a bad diagnosis, because of cancer, and it always makes me realise how lucky I was in my situation of having a lot of friends and a lot of incredible kind of support through my colleagues and my work at the time. And that one person in particular, shout out to Craig, who said, who was my boss at the time, and said, you don't have to worry about it. Because he could have well said, you're going to be out of action for a year and then you lose your job. And that happens sadly to a lot of people. So it also made me understand the importance of your network and your friends and your support, and so that when life throws you something that's not too fun, then you can cope with it and focus on your health and your recovery and not how you're going to pay your bills. Because, I mean, I made a friend in the hospital that day, and she had got fired from her job for taking too much time being off sick. Obviously being diagnosed with something, another type of cancer, I think it was. And I'm like, I am so thankful that this is not me. So I think it also gave me this motivation for what I preach today, which is we are one step away from anything happening to us, and as a result we need to nurture who we have around us and those relationships.
Does travel remain as important to you as it ever has been?
I think travel is probably the one constant thing in my life. It's quite, it's an inspirational thing. So as a kid, I was never really able to travel because we never really had any money. So it's only through my work that I started traveling to really exciting places. And I think maybe that's why it's so special, because every time I go somewhere, I feel really privileged and lucky that I can be there. And I still love it as much, if not more, now that I'm a bit older and do it for different reasons. I think when we say, yeah, it has the power to change the world, I really do believe that, because I think the people you meet along the way, the stories you hear, the experiences you have make you a completely different person. I have met so many amazing friends along the way and just come back richer, not in my bank account, but as a person and as kind of an entrepreneur and as a friend or as a sister or whatever. I think it has that power. If you do it well, I try to visit, even if you do it in a fun way, I think it's good for the soul, and I will forever hope to just continue on travelling all the time. I think it's the best thing ever.
We're talking about New Beginnings partly because you launched Invisible Cities in Aberdeen earlier this month, and you're not done, are you? What's happening over this year and next? What are the further expansion plans?
So we just launched in Aberdeen in partnership with Homewards, which is part of the Royal Foundation programme, and aims to eradicate homelessness completely from the UK. It's a very ambitious programme, and obviously Aberdeen is one of the locations where Homewards works. There are 5 other locations in the UK, and we're going to be launching in all of those locations, which is really exciting. So next year, Invisible Cities turns 10 years old, which makes me feel so old, because it's also this journey that of course doesn't feel like it is a 10-year journey, because we've had COVID in the middle and different things, but the aim is to be in 10 cities in 10 years, so we need to kind of catch up and be in new cities by then. But that's a total of 13 invisible cities for us in the UK. And the one question everybody asks me all the time is, would you go international? And the answer is absolutely yes, but I need to refrain from just absolutely wanting to go anywhere, and we need to do it right.